Hi, everyone. Dr. Adriana Popescu here with you today with another episode of Kaleidoscope of Possibilities, alternative perspectives on mental health. I'm really excited for today. I think we're in for a treat. We're going to be speaking with Ellen Wier. She is a renowned spiritual coach, sound healer, intuitive, and board certified music therapist with a powerful story rooted in her near death experience at the age of 12. After being kicked in the head by a horse, Ellen journeyed beyond the physical realm, encountering profound spiritual lessons before being drawn back to her body through the healing power of music. Waking from a coma to the sound of music inspired her to pursue a career as a music therapist. She has a master's in transpersonal psychology. Whoop, whoop. I have my doctorate in transpersonal psychology. So I'm excited to talk about that. Ellen specializes in guiding others to connect with their higher selves through high frequency modalities like crystal singing bowls, angelic messages, deep meditation, and altered states of consciousness. She regularly leads transformational workshops, which is how I met her, and her powerful near death story has been featured in the award winning film Beyond the Grave and on her YouTube channel, inspiring countless individuals on their spiritual journey. Welcome, Ellen.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for
I'm
having
so happy to have you here. It was such a joy to meet you actually fairly recently, just a few weeks ago. We met at a workshop where you and your partner provided this amazing breath work, sound healing experience, which for me was extremely profound. Maybe we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But I would love for the audience to first get to know you a little bit and about your story. How did you end up doing this work? Yeah, I don't think you anticipated that your life would go this track. I've been reading your book, and you were definitely not on this track early on.
Right. I was just a kid, and I loved horses. And that's how it kind of all began. I was riding a horseback lesson. It was my first Western lesson. And so coincidentally did not have a helmet on because back in the day, they didn't require that. Right. But the cinch was loose on that particular day and it slipped. The horse got spooked. Um, the saddle slipped and I fell off. And then the horse reared up and kicked me in the right temple. And I was taken to a hospital, local hospital with a head injury, and then taken to a bigger hospital in the Dallas area in Waco. And that's kind of where it all began.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about that. Like, I mean, a lot of people in the audience are going to know what a near death experience is, but some people may not. Can you share just a little bit about what that was like for you?
Yeah, at this hospital, the neurological team was they invited my parents to play something at my bedside to try and inspire me to wake up or stimulate the mind. And on this day, they chose a movie that was mostly classical music. And that's kind of where it all began. But I found myself on a raft of sorts. And I don't know if your audience can see, but I kind of tried to depict it on the cover of my book, this wooden raft, right? That I felt myself on. And I was standing in front of Ascended Master Jesus. And there was another Ascended Master on my left who I didn't know at the time because I was just a kid. My experience was so beautiful. It was absolutely amazing. I would describe it as traveling to different light realms. The first realm that I experienced was very white and had different colored streams and trees and music that I'd never heard before and haven't since. It was beautiful and oh, so loving. But the light realm that really I think of when I think of this experience was all golden light. And I remember not having a body, not having any human concept, just being complete love, complete acceptance, complete wholeness. There was no one way, there was no concept of even labeling in this place. It was more of an experience than anything. And the way I describe it is there was this fullness to the energy. And even though I didn't have a body, I felt the warm pressure and fullness of this love until I became that. I had the experience of expanding into the love where every answer is there, everything is known, everything is love, everything is wholeness. And it was the most beautiful experience I've ever had. There are no words to describe it, but I think I was meant to experience that before choosing to come back, which was the next part of my near death experience. I was back on the raft. There was unspoken communication between Ascended Master Jesus and me. And I was invited to either stay or come back and live. And it's all about free will. And that's something that I still connect with, that concept of making the soul decision, using free will in order to lift our consciousness. So I really wanted to stay. To be honest, at first I wanted to stay, but like many other experiencers who are given a choice, I was shown the trajectory of life if I were to stay versus to go back and live my life on Earth. There was no right or wrong whatsoever in any of this because the universe would have self corrected. But I did see that it would greatly affect my father's path and my brother's path on this planet. And my soul chose to live in that moment. So the moment I chose to live, that's when I got all the human feeling. That's when I got gratitude and the gift of knowing that it is a gift to be able to live. It is a soul gift to be able to come here and expand our light and live through this experience of connecting to the greater light. So I received so many messages in that moment. I could have been there lifetimes, but I remember knowing all at once that most of what we think about on this planet doesn't matter, that it's a distraction from reality, which is the love and the light on the other side, that this is an illusion, that this is a practice ground, this is a training ground, this is an opportunity to become that God's self. And that I remember thinking like, wow, nothing that I thought mattered matters, right? So once I made the choice to live, I realized this validation that our thoughts create our reality, that we're meant to co-create, that we are far more powerful than we ever know. And I knew that it was a gift. So I gave a vow in that moment. I vowed to come back and heal people with music. That was my vow. And then a secondary vow of I will give gratitude every day for every experience, knowing that each experience is an opportunity for me to move closer to that divine self, to that light. And that's when the miracle happened. I was taken into the darkness. I saw a music staff in the distance, different colored notes for each pitch, right? But I couldn't hear anything. And then that whole musical staff kind of went through my essence, and I heard a tiny pinprick of sound, which also was like light. And I focused all of my being on that sound. And what went from almost being inaudible became so loud that the only way I could escape it was to force my eyes open. And I don't want to gloss over this because it was actually very, very, very challenging to bring that music into consciousness at a physical level. And I think that I was pulling myself back into my body through the music. If I were to guess at this point, that's what it feels like. And it was equally as hard to force my eyes open. And that's when the nurse came running over and I saw the credits of the movie on the little rolly cart next to my ICU bed, and I could see myself in the ICU, and then I blacked out again. And that was my near death experience and my vow, and that is why I'm here today.
And it wasn't, I mean, what a beautiful experience, and we often, those of us who have not experienced that, will often hear these stories and think, wow, I mean, clearly you were like forever transformed from that. And some might have the impression that your life might have from then on been light and love and sunshine and roses, but it wasn't that, right? Like, and I would love to hear more about, if you're willing, to share a little bit about that part of your journey, because I think for me, hearing that when I'm reading your book, it makes your experience much more relatable. Like you had something, an experience I don't remember having this life. um and you have access to such, beautiful things now at this stage of where you're at, but like you also went through some darker stuff, and I feel like so many people can relate to that.
Yeah, I did. I have chronic Lyme disease, though it's in remission. And I'm very thankful for that. I went through the process of recovering from that, not knowing what was going on medically for all those years. And and then I also went through a very unexpected and traumatizing like end of marriage. So I had three youngish children, and I wasn't expecting it, yet it turned out to be the best thing that could have happened to me. But in the moment that it happened, I was so devastated. The only thing that I knew to do from my near death experience was to turn myself back to my higher presence, to dive into the shadow work, to move into that. And the book is really about how we can use these experiences of contrast, these experiences that our human might find as devastating, and see that we're always on the path. And it's an opportunity for us to move into something far greater than we could have imagined. And so, through the process of all of these things that I went through, when I finally surrendered and allowed my presence to come through me and released any idea of control or what the future would look like, that's when I stepped fully into this path that I'm finally really in now. And that's also how I learned to manifest. So, this manifestation tool comes kind of later in the book where people can learn how to manifest, how to use a life map, how to create a life map, how to manifest love, how to live fully in like partnership with our God self, our higher self. And so to me, the more that I do this work, the more I realize it's not just about bringing people healing through music. It's about using music and music programs and altered states of consciousness and breath work and all the things that have come through channeled to me through these experiences of life to help them connect with their God presence, their high presence, so they can receive the information that they need from their own higher knowing, which is far more powerful than anything that I could ever give, right? And I and that's why now I hold back the messages until I work with a client for a while and let them get their own messages. And I'm taking notes, as they journey. And then at the end, I share my reading and say, these are the things that came through. And it's always powerful because it resonates with what they've gone through, but they get to experience it for themselves. And there's no doubt.
And I had that experience like so recently. I think it was only 2 weeks ago or so. And I've had, I've had a lot of different healing practices, traditional healing modalities, shamanism. I've been a seeker my whole life as well. I also had Lyme disease for many years. It's very interesting how some of us healers are called to the work through, some sort of illness or dark night of the soul or some other kind of spiritually transformative experience, right? Um, but it was what I felt was really different about how you and Neil did it was that I mean, aside from incorporating, oils and into, setting our intentions and all that, but was like guiding us to have our own journey. I felt like I was on a shamanic journey. Um, I had experiences with beautiful light beings, interdimensional beings. I got, a really valuable message about my own powers. And what was really cool is I have had this issue with my thumb. It's called trigger thumb, where you can't bend it. At basically, I could only move it this much, right? And then it would like, if I could even force it, it would like snap back and be
Ooh.
very painful. After that sound healing session, I suddenly was able to bend it smoothly. It was a little bit come back since, but like it all of a sudden was able to move on its own. And I was like, wow, that was amazing. And I had never had something quite like that before. There were a lot of things that I can't even remember now and who I was talking to and what was happening, but it was very different to allow me to have that experience myself, which was so unexpected.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love hearing that. I didn't know that. I'm so glad to know that. And we are finding that more and more, as things develop and as we do this work, more and more is downloaded, and I listen more to that voice, and we surrender and allow that. More and more of this is happening. I had an event in the Tri-Cities area in Washington before I met you, and there was a nurse there in the audience, and her intention was not to self-heal. It was to, heal something else in her life and mentally. Um, But at the end of the session, she came up and said, I hurt my rotator cuff. And before this morning, I could only lift this much. I was doing my exercises and I could get like maybe 30 degrees. And she said, I just wanted to give you a hug because I can give you a hug. I can lift my arms up now. And it was just such an honor to witness that, because in your case and in her case, it's your higher self. We get out of the story of the mind and the limitation that we believe and that we place on ourselves in our lives. We get out of the mind. We connect deeply with our presence through brainwave entrainment, which happens with the live bowls. It's similar to what people will read about binaural beats, but it's entrainment of the brain where we're actually changing the frequency in the brain through different modalities, through super oxygenating the blood, with the breath, through toning, and then also through what I lovingly see as rays of light. And these rays of light, they come to me. They've been coming to me since the divorce, since I awakened again to my true potential. And I started moving into the deep inner work that I needed to do to clear and become fully embodied in my power. In my power, as I mean, not like spiritual powers necessarily, but the power of just being authentically me. And once that started happening, things just started unfolding more and more. These abilities to help people connect to that energy. And the rays of light, they come in different colors. And I've learned to associate the colors of blue, like the blue flame, with a physical healing that's happening in the room. And so I'll see the ray come down. I won't know necessarily who it's for, but I'll see it. And then the violet consuming flame and the violet ray, that's very powerful right now too. And I'm just so honored that I get to sit there and witness, because you're calling it in, you're doing it. Um, and I get to hold space for it. And I love it. It's so great.
Do you feel that in some way you're kind of channeling, like you're the bridge of some sort between other
Yeah.
realms, worlds, and sort of this 3D world we're in?
Yes, I absolutely do. And I'm really honored to experience that, because I know that it's a gift, and I know that a lot of near death experiencers come back with gifts, and I'm honored that this lifetime I get to hold that gift for others. And I absolutely am not myself when I am sitting in front of my bowls. I mean, once I call in and I qualify the energy and I connect fully with my presence, even my voice changes, right? It is that higher being that is coming through, and she is so wise and she is so powerful and she is so absolutely beautiful in her energy. And I'm so thankful that I get to have that relationship with her right now, in this work. And yes, she's not my human, that's for sure.
I love it. And I wonder too, like I was going to ask you, because we had a group experience, right? Do you find that the group experience is different than individual? Like, or is there like a magnified effect that can happen when you have a lot of people in a session like this?
The shift is always there. People come to me and to us to change and move energy out of their lives, to connect with loved ones who have passed for themselves, to receive the messages they need to receive in order to move through their intention to become more spiritual. But when it's a one-on-one session, it is light years beyond that group experience. The group experience is still powerful. And there's this kind of like opportunity for collective consciousness where we get messages from what others bring through as well. Because what's a message for one is a message for all. It is powerful. It does make the shifts. However, the individual sessions are like entering into a portal. I mean, you just lift out of your body. You're in an altered state. I'm there taking notes. I'm guiding you through the music. You're telling me what you experience. So it's a dialogue. And because it's a dialogue, we can reach a point in the imagery where you might be like, oh, I don't know what this feeling is in my heart. And so we're able to communicate with the heart and find out, what does the heart need? How can we funnel it with whatever is needed? How can we shift it? So what I see in individual sessions, which is very different than group, is I see people coming in with intention, They move into a light realm, they get the information, and then their body might have a message. So we communicate with the body, we shift things in the body, they're taken to another light realm, they get another message, then they're taken to another. It's like I'm watching them ascend, and I do get to see it because the gift of mine is that I witness what my clients are experiencing. And I think they do that so that I can support more fully. And I get overwhelmed with emotion and gratitude because sometimes I get to sit in the energy of an ascended master, a goddess, a god, ascended master Jesus, angels, intergalactic, all types of beings and cosmic beings are coming through, and it's like I get to hold space for them, right? But yes, the individual sessions are far different, far deeper, and I think more impactful in a way that they just shift life so quickly for people. Yeah.
Well, and speaking of those kinds of shifts, the podcast is about, different perspectives on mental health, which we know there's no real separation. And we talked a little bit about, how music, sound healing can affect the body. And you told us a little bit about the entrainment and all that. But what have you seen in terms of more like psychological kinds of effects for folks? Like, a lot of the clients, I specialize in addiction and trauma. I'm dealing with people who've had some really horrible life experiences. A lot of them are depressed or anxious. Like with those kinds of things, when you've done your sessions with folks, what kinds of changes have you seen?
Oh, amazing changes. People move into more confidence. Many people, oh, it's all about confidence and emotion and spiritual openness and seeing that they're guided. It's almost like if you studied any of this plant medicine studies of Groff and LSD in your program at in transpersonal, that was a big part of our training. And you find that when people have an experience like that, they're often changed forever. What's really fascinating is that this particular model, called the Bonnie method of guided imagery in music, actually stimulates the same parts of the brain as LSD, but it's non psychotropic and you're using music programs. They've been studying this since the 50s, I think. And to know that you can physiologically change the brain in that way just with the music is powerful on its own. But when you pair it with intention and you pair it with somatic release and you pair it with toning in the body and clearing, and then you bring in this spiritual channeling and energy to kind of help support, then you're really just the true transpersonal state. You're leaving the ego, you're leaving the body, you're working on things on a much deeper level. And if you believe in the power of manifesting and repatterning your life, and even if you know about the parts work by Dr. Richard Schwartz, right? We hold these parts of ourselves in trauma that will repattern and recreate trauma sometimes in life unknowingly, because that part of us has a belief that is anchored in at the moment of trauma. So in this work, oftentimes we will go back to a memory that someone has where they anchored in some type of belief with themselves. We'll be able to comfort that child or that version of them or younger version of them, and then ask that version, well, what role would you like to take on in the future, instead of keeping you in a pattern where you can no longer speak your voice because of this trauma. And even in past lives we have trauma. So one of my clients just started out and was instantly taken into a past life where she was choked and strangled to death. She had seen this vision before and she knew it was a past life, but she didn't know how she died. But in this life, she had carried forward this feeling of not being able to speak her truth. And she had almost recreated that pattern. So when we were able to see that and that the part had anchored into this lifetime, we give the part another choice. What else would you like to do? She's like, I want to find ways to use my voice and I want to sing. So now this part has, unconsciously, we've rerouted that part and said, hey, now you're going to be looking for opportunities for me to sing. You're going to be looking for opportunities for me to speak my voice in power. And so it changed instantly, but I do see people who come regularly too. I'll see people every week or every 2 weeks, to just stay in that process of continually ascending to their higher potential, I guess.
I
Yeah.
mean, really, I guess in that way, we're talking about it being like a spiritual practice, right?
Oh, it is, yes, 100% a spiritual practice. Yes.
Yes, yes. And I think, the average person would say, yeah, I like music or I love music. And I don't think they fully understand maybe why. Like, well, why is it? What is it doing to you that you end up feeling so good after especially live music? People love going to performances, concerts, whatever it is, or playing music. So I guess there's so many things I want to ask, but like one of the questions that I have is specifically about the music that you were playing, and then talking more about the bowls, the singing bowls, the crystal singing bowls, and why the type of music that you choose, and then why the bowls. Tell us more about all that.
Well, as you'll find out in the book, every part of this process has been downloaded to me through some mystical experience that brought them closer. With the bowls, it was me experiencing just a bowl ceremony where I showed up in a circular chapel and this man was singing. We were on the second row back, so we weren't even close to the front. But he started singing the song that connected with my friend who I'd come with, and we had come together so that she could heal grief over the loss of her twin brother that had passed the month before. And when he started singing the song, she started crying. And right after that song, I noticed she was crying, but I didn't want to come out of my space. I was staying in it and just holding that energy. I saw a medicine man in front of me, and he started chanting a Native American music. And in that moment, this shaman or medicine man came to me and gave me a powerful message about my journey on this planet. And then after the experience, my friend said the song that he had sung right before he got to me was the song that she and her brother had sung to each other. And so there was a healing element and a mystical element, and it felt so powerful. I knew that I wanted to bring it into this process. So, as for the music, music is one of the only things that has been shown to really, I mean, we engage the brain in a way that we can even increase the happiness hormones in us, the dopamine and the serotonin. And it's simply by being and feeling the emotion of music. Classical music is what I use because I came out of a coma to classical music. It was Tchaikovsky. And because when I studied this practice, they use classical music. The classical music is structured in a way that it keeps you conscious enough to know what you're saying and experiencing, but it also allows you to transcend the ego to move into altered states. The the somatic piece, I've just found over the years that the more I use a somatic intervention for the induction of this process, the more powerful it is for people. And so that process of release is why I brought the bowls in. I also do vocal toning, which is an ancient practice of vocalizing on different verbal um, or vowel sounds, right? So I do that too to clear the energetic field. The voice is also quite powerful, and I think it's the key to our healing for the future. Um, so the bowls are really important. And personally, with Lyme disease, I brought these bowls in because I read a book called Don't Take My Lyme Away. And that book reminded me that I don't need to feel like I have to control and rid myself of Lyme. I will live with it my whole life. How can I live in balance with it? How can I move it into remission? All of these questions. So I picked two bowls so that I could work more with clients using the bowls when I had the opportunity to do that. And I found out that the two bowls I chose, D and A, just happened to be the frequencies that Lyme can't live in the body. So the two bowls that I chose for my first two bowls ended up. And then I started studying Dr. Mitchell Gaynor's work in oncology and healing through toning and with the bowls. And my fascination just became greater. And now I know we're changing the brain through this process, through oxygenating the blood, through vocalizing, through witnessing and calling light in. Some people, like I was working with someone yesterday, it was a virtual experience because we've got the bowls set up in stereo now so that people can experience binaural beats when they wear headphones and listen. And she said, "Oh, this is the second time I've worked with you." She was at the IONS event in Phoenix. And she said, "It's the second time I've had they completed my surgery. And people do come in and say they feel like they're having light surgery, little, pointed pinpricks of light that feel really good and kind of turn on the whole body. And so there's that too. It's just it's whatever's needed, I guess, but it's always fascinating.
I love it. And it really does feel like a multi-sensory experience because of course you have the sound and the vibration and the toning when we're also chanting the vowel sounds and all the things, but you're also using the breath work and the oils. Can you tell us a little bit more about what are those contributing to the sessions?
So the breath work super oxygenates the brain and the blood and prepares people to release whatever they're holding in the body. So that's why we do that in groups, because we don't have the process of being able to individually communicate with the body when we're in large groups like that, but it can just be done, right? It can be moved. Now, the oils are fascinating for so many reasons. First of all, plants hold healing energy on their own. Each plant has a different spiritual meaning, can be used for a different emotional, physical need, right? But we're creating two things. On a psychological level, we're creating an association between our intention and a sensory input, which is smell. And the oils that I use actually have a small enough molecular size that they can move through the neuron into the amygdala directly. When I was in grad school, we didn't think anything could actually move into the amygdala. We thought that there was a gatekeeper at the edge of the olfactory senses, and that is true for most things. Even oils you buy on the shelf can't get through the neuron. But there are some oils that are, if they're purely distilled and they're high enough frequency and they're right molecular size, if they're small enough cell size, there are 40 million trillion molecules in a drop of the essential oil that I use, which is Young Living. And that's 40,000 times more than we have in our body. So it has to be a very small celled oil to move through. Now, the cool part about this is there's an ancient practice of choosing oil intuitively and then seeking the meaning. I didn't know about this, but again, all of these processes are downloaded to me. So I'm just bringing them into my practice every time one fits. And then I'll find out, oh, by the way, that's been done for hundreds of years where people put colored bottles and each bottle has a different oil in it and you don't really know and you choose it. Then you read the spiritual meaning, that geranium is the oil of love and trust. And so that oil is brought in for you to connect more with your loving self. So I intuitively choose the oil. So there's kind of a little bit of medical intuitiveness that has come through with that too. Another skill set that I get to lean on. And so that's why I use them. They worked for me, and they worked for me with Lyme disease. They were like the most powerful healer for me, that I want to continue to honor the plant. And I'll speak to really quickly about the water element, because many people don't realize that just as water spins before it boils, it also spins upon human death. And so it's almost like there's something being lifted out. Water predates the sun, and it has a consciousness of its own. And when we say consciousness, you think, oh, well, it has to be self-aware to have a consciousness. Well, it does, because the studies, first of all, Dr. Emoto's studies of speaking positively over water and how it changed the molecular structure of the freezing water has been taken to the next level and beyond, where people are asking questions of water. Who are you? And then at the freezing level, it writes, I am. If you follow Dr. Veda Austin's work, she found that even putting water in a petri dish over a newspaper in the freezer upon the first freezing point, it was imprinting the letters and the images underneath. And just to test it, she put a piece of cardboard in between the petri dish and the newspaper. And that cardboard didn't stop the water. It still had the image that was underneath. And then more recently, she was painting a bird and decided to clean off the paintbrush, dip it in the water, and freeze it and see. And the water recreated the fantails of the bird that she was painting. There is a consciousness and a wisdom to water. And the oils are that, because plants use essential oils to communicate with the root system when a part of a tree has been cut down and they need to send resources to it. They communicate when there's a predator. So we can imprint our intention on this water element, move it into the olfactory sense, move it into the amygdala, associate it with a thought that we're trying to bring through. And then the ray of light can come through and we can consciously use the water element within the body to transport light. And that is a big part of what I'm doing too. The big, big part. Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
much more than what I realized just laying down and, and being guided through this experience. I didn't realize the intention and the consciousness around like every little thing that we were doing. Um, it's really amazing. And yes, the young essential oils are hugely powerful. I also had those, I think they were called raindrop treatments with the Lyme disease, and one drop was so incredibly powerful. It was amazing. Like, and people I think don't know about that. I once had a lady on the podcast talking about essential oils and things, but I used to have no idea how powerful. Yeah, it smells good, but like how many molecules in a drop, and what the blood brain barrier and all the amygdala stuff. That's fascinating. I didn't even know all that.
I have an entire, like, it became a side business for me. I became so fascinated in the science of it that I started a whole group for practitioners and therapists, actually, where I put these studies up so people can see. The people who discovered the scientists who discovered it moved through the neuron actually won the Nobel Prize. It was part of a bigger study. And now one of the lead researchers are at I think it's called the Manel Center for Chemical Senses, or it used to be called that. She now runs studies on oils in the brain and only uses Young Living. And people don't realize that they're like, oh, well, Young Living is so much more expensive. But they don't realize that's because you're paying for the action in the body. I mean, the raindrop technique, which you mentioned, is kind of a variation of a technique used by the Lakota Indians and then that Native American tribe in healing. People don't understand that this company has done all of the studies on frequency, on spirituality, on healing. They created the distillation process that is used in every essential oil company on the planet, right? They were the first in the original. So even their land is chemical free. They test the vibration of the land before they plant the plant. It's just they speak over the plants. Only women harvest the clary sage. Well, do you know why? Because they found that the essential oil output when women are harvesting the clary sage is like 40 or 50% higher than if men do it. And that's fascinating because clary sage is a female balancing plant. That's what it's known for. So plants are conscious, water is conscious. And to be with a conscious company, like that was really important to me, and that's why it brought into my work. And yeah, that's why I wanted to share this process with people, because I feel like we can have our own experience of heaven. We might not want to go there through an NDE, but we can experience it and get a glimpse of it. That's what we're going for. That's what we're here for, to rise in consciousness till we get to the point where life can respond by giving us what we call in at our vibration, right? Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Oh my God, we could talk for hours about this, but we're in for a special treat. You're actually going to guide us through a sound experience today. You have
Yes,
your goals. Is there anything you want to tell us about that ahead of time, or?
I do. I will lead everybody through it, but just come through with an intention of what you want to bring in. And if you enjoy it, I would love to have people join my meditation group, which I do once a week, every Wednesday. There's a donation-based group that I run on Facebook. So if you like it, come back for more and become part of my community. I would love, love, love that.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
go ahead and add that in now too. Usually we do it at the end, but I'm gonna probably have us leave just with the sound and just let it trail off from there. Um, but if people, yeah, if they want to find out more about your work, your offerings, your book, where do they go?
Well, they can go to wellnessmusictherapy.com. That's my website. You can find out about private sessions and retreats. You can find out about media appearances like this one, and you can check out my meditation group. My book is in, it can be ordered in any bookstore, but it's in on Amazon. It's called Waking Up in Heaven, Living with Purpose Through Afterlife Wisdom. It's the pink book. There are a couple by this title, but this is Waking Up in Heaven. I would be honored if anyone would check it out. And of course, we travel. Like we're on tour. If anybody has a group that would like to host us and bring us into their area, we're doing that more and more. We are taking a break now because my fiance and I are having sacred union in about 16 days. You'll read all about him in the second to last chapter, which he says is the best one, but how we manifested each other through some sacred practices, and also our sacred work that we feel we came to this planet to do together. And so we'll be in Kentucky in April. We're probably going to have a retreat in Ireland in the spring. And we'll be in Santa Barbara, back in Santa Barbara in January for anybody who's there. So I would love to see you guys and get to know you better. And I always would love if you want to know more about, my YouTube channel or anything like that, you can also text the word kaleidoscope. Well, let's make it a little easier. Let's do, I don't know. What should we do? What's a
Magic.
good,
I don't know. The word magic just popped in my head.
yes, text the word magic to my phone number, which is 760-230-0040. And I'll send you kind of an e-card that has links to all of this information too. So
Wonderful. So fabulous. What a gift, Ellen. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to hear what's coming next. But thank you so much, in advance for being with us today, for offering your gifts, your presence, all the wonderful information and energy that you shared with us. Truly, how special. I'm super grateful.
oh, it's my honor, absolute honor. I love chatting with you today. Thank you for having me. And I can't wait to know you more. Love it.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
I wanted to lead you through a quick experience of the bowls. This is best experienced with earphones on because then you can feel and hear the binaural beats. So take a deep breath and find yourself in a place that feels safe and peaceful and easy. Just feel that energy starting to flow. I always qualify the space by saying, I now joyously accept the fullness of my mighty divine presence. I am a child of the light. I live in the light. I serve the light. I am illumined, protected, supplied, sustained by the light. slowly come back into your waking world, know that you can return to this experience at any time by simply recalling the messages that came to you today. Find the gratitude for all that came through, and know that you will probably have more coming through dreams, through song lyrics, through animals that you see in nature. Just be open and ready to receive this information. And thank you very much.